and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and tonight I am very excited about our guest, Nicole Barsalona. Nicole began her career at Steven Van Zandt Multimedia Company, working her way up to Chief of Staff and Director of Communications. While there, she also served as the road manager to Van Zandt's on tour with artists like Bruce Springsteen. Currently, Nicole works as an artist manager for Everyday Rebellion and serves as the president of Women in Music, a nonprofit organization committed to advancing equality, visibility, and opportunities for women in the industry. She's been quoted in publications like Forbes, Billboard, The Wall Street Journal, and Music Row, and now we are very lucky to have her join us. So, Nicole, how are you? Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Doing well. Hanging in
Glad
there.
to hear it. We'll just jump right into question number one. So, Nicole, imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give her on a personal note? And what one piece of advice would you give her from a business perspective?
I would say they're kind of, I think, maybe the same thing, a little bit the same thing. And that would be maybe on the personal note, just to like trust the journey and your passions that you kind of pursue, whether at college or beforehand or in your early career, like that those passions will come together eventually, even if they seem kind of disparate at first. I was like a women's studies minor in college and communications, and ended up marrying those things with women in music.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know it was all going to come together, but I knew that those were things I was passionate about. And so it finally did. And just like not worrying about, which direction you take, but it kind of finds itself to, I think, at the end. And on a professional note, I would definitely tell my 25-year-old self to enjoy the work and to not take it so seriously all the time, not worry so much about being hyper professional, but also we work in an industry that's really fun and it's about, enjoying people who are around you and getting to enjoy the work. I took things so seriously as a young professional, trying to really be great at my job that I missed on like just stopping to look around and really enjoy what I was doing a lot. So
I love this podcast because for me, it's like a therapy session each week. It's like everything that I need to hear, asking you the questions about where I am now. Actually, so how did you end up getting started with Women in Music?
Yeah, so I joined as a member because I left my old company, which was Steven Van Zandt's media company, and we were on the road with Springsteen and the E Street Band for years, and I was totally exhausted and wondering if I could craft the kind of career I really wanted long term in this business, because it was so exhausting and 24/7, and the kind of toxic nature of the industry back then was really, really strong. And so I wondered, I wanted to eventually have a family, and I really wanted to learn more really about artist management, because that's what I had a passion for. But I didn't see that working out for anyone who was a mentor to me, who was a woman. I didn't see that and maybe they chose not to kind of have a dual, focus between work life. But I certainly didn't see what I wanted out of the people I really looked up to and wanted to be like in the professional realm. So I went to a panel at South by Southwest one year called Moms in Music, and it was all artist managers. And I was like, oh wow, nice. These women are doing the thing that I want to do, and also figuring out how to have a family in this business. And back then, no one talked about if they had kids or were married. Like it was just not the vibe. It was work all the time. And so I went out on my own in 2011. My husband and I moved cities, and I thought, okay, I'm going to finally give artist management a shot, and just give myself a little bit of time to, figure out if that's the direction I want to go in. And I realized that leaving a company, you all of a sudden don't have an accounting department. You don't have a legal department. You don't have all of these different people and colleagues to lean on when you need their expertise. And so I literally Googled women in music. The organization came up, luckily, and I ended up becoming a member, and I went to some events, and it was just a really great community where I felt like I had people who were my peers and I could ask questions to. We had a Google group back then, and we still have it now, where if you have a question, you just email out to the group. Thousands and thousands of members, so you get a lot of information back very often. So like I would say, okay, I have this publishing offer for a client. I don't know enough about publishing to know if this is a good deal
You're
or not.
right.
And someone in publishing take 10 minutes on the phone with me. And so I met some
That's
of the
great.
people who I still work with today through Women in Music, and have been able to kind of build my network that way. And I've really leaned on it as a resource. So that's how I
That's
got.
great.
Yeah.
Well, moving right along to question number 2. So every industry has its dirty little secrets, and we both know that it's no different in the music industry. And sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. What's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the music industry?
This is a really good
It's
question.
a juicy one.
It is. It is. I would say the big secret, I would say, like, for music, I think more so than any other industry that I have been close to, is everyone ends up kind of knowing each other. It like seems like this really vast business, and it's actually really small and
That's so
intimate.
true.
Yeah. And so, like, anyone you meet along the way, you are definitely going to come into contact with again.
Hmm.
And so I think the big secret is, like, make sure that, and this again goes back to like my advice to my 25-year-old self, to like enjoy it a little bit more. Just like be the person you like want to be around, like
Right.
that's as an employee or as a colleague, or as a freelancer, whatever it is. Just like the big secret is, like, you're going to meet all of these people again sometime. And you just want to like build that network and make sure that you're like getting to know those people on a personal level, not just a professional level, and just be that person who makes other people comfortable. And I think the industry's changed a lot. So it used to be very uncomfortable and very intimidating. And now I think it's a lot more of a warmer, kind of inclusive place. And so I think that is like the big secret, just to like make sure you're a part of that group that's being inclusive and warm and welcoming to people. Because you're certain to meet them again.
Definitely. Yeah, that's such a good point. I used to think it was such a big industry, like you said, but it's honestly like the biggest, smallest group.
It's so true.
All right. So we are already at the third and final question. Throughout your career, I can only imagine that you have been asked a lot of questions, whether for industry conferences, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all those interviews and all of those questions, I'll bet that there was one you have never been asked but would have liked to. So what is that question, and what would be your answer?
My goodness, this is a really good question. Wow. Man, what question would I like to be asked? I don't know what I would like to be asked, but I'm thinking like what I would like to ask other people. I think like part of what I think is so interesting now that I've like gotten to a place where I'm more interested in like connecting with people and finding out about them, aside from just like transactional work stuff. I really love like what makes people tick and why they're in the business, and kind of their life outside of the business, and the ways that we can connect there and get to know one another and enjoy each other's company. And I think that the question I would really love to be asked, or to have people asked, is like, what do you love most about what you do? And maybe like what scares you the most?
Yeah, that's a good
I
question.
think that like, what scares you really kind of sets the tone for like what also makes you inspired and excited and all that stuff. So I think that could be a good one, is like maybe what you love most about the music business, and what scares you the most.
That's a great question. So what would be your answer to that?
Oh, I have to answer it too. That's even tougher. So I would say what I love most is being able to work with amazing artists who I love, and our extended families, and get to work in really a creative environment where like anything is possible, and you just can kind of come up with things and make them happen out of thin air. And certainly like seeing the writing process with artists, I think is just mind blowing. And the thing that I think scares me most is like probably as an artist manager, probably like not accomplishing what we set out to accomplish for my artists. Scariest thing is like, or like making a decision that then an artist regrets that I recommended. That is,
that's very scary.
Me going out on a limb to make a decision and to try to convince someone to do something, or take a deal or whatever it is, and then regretting it. That's definitely my biggest one.
That was one of the best questions that I've heard anyone say, because I think it's so helpful, like, to share to people that are coming into the industry what scares them and thoughts that they have, because you think that like everybody has it all together, but you're always scared.
No one has anything together, especially in this business.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, Nicole, it has been so wonderful having you on tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you.
And to my 3Q listeners, I know you enjoyed hearing from Nicole just as much as I enjoyed speaking with her. So stay tuned for next week's episode of 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.